As a women's health physical therapist, one of the most common questions that I ask prenatal and postpartum moms is, have you been doing your pelvic floor exercises? That question is often met with a blank stare or an inquisitive look because many women don't even know what is the pelvic floor. So, quick course in the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is actually the floor of the core. It's a quite intricate meshwork of muscles that form a sling in the bottom of the pelvis. So it actually is the structure that gives support to all of the internal organs, including the uterus. So obviously during pregnancy, there is a great strain on that meshwork of muscles, and it's just muscle that holds it up. So it's important to exercise those pelvic floor muscles during pregnancy and afterward to regain the muscle tone that's lost during pregnancy and childbirth, because there's a lot of strain with the weight of the baby pressing down on those muscles. Even if you have a cesarean section, your pelvic floor becomes really overstretched. So you need to work those muscles during pregnancy. Now, if you have a vaginal childbirth, obviously those muscles become drastically overstretched because they have to open to allow the baby to pass through. So afterward, you have some severely overstretched muscles, and exercising them, just like your severely overstretched abs, is going to help to regain that muscle tone. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, first of all, it affects your sex life because you can use those muscles in sexual intercourse, and that can affect your pleasure during sex. So that's one really good reason to do those pelvic floor exercises. Another really good reason is it affects urinary continence. Nobody wants to pee on themselves when they sneeze or cough. And that's really no laughing matter, because if it's bad, it even happens when you laugh. Now, many women experience that in the late stages of pregnancy and think or hope that it'll magically go away when baby comes. That's not always the case. And why is because those pelvic floor muscles are really lax. So, how do you do a pelvic floor exercise? Many of you may know the exercises as Kegel exercises. They're named that after the doctor who first wrote about it in the 1950s, I believe. So to do a Kegel exercise, or a simple pelvic floor contraction, to learn how to isolate that muscle, you can do the P test. That's what I call it. But it's good to remind yourself that it's only a test. When you go to do number one, when you're urinating, try to squeeze the muscles to stop the flow of urine. That squeezing is using the pelvic floor muscles. Now, you may or may not actually be able to stop your urine flow when you do your strongest contraction, but that's a good way to show you where those muscles are. It is not, however, recommended that you use the P test as an exercise. You can use it as the test to see how strong you are, because you might feel that you're far, far away from being able to stop the flow of urine, and you can barely even slow the flow of urine. So you can periodically test to check that, but again, don't do that as an exercise, just to help you to identify where those muscles are and how to squeeze and contract them. So moving on to what are the real exercises. The first I call the fast contract, and what that is after you've identified how to contract it, you just contract, relax, contract, relax, contract, relax, contract, relax, over and over. This is using the quick firing muscle fibers, which are different than those that are for a sustained contraction. So it's important to exercise both types of the muscle fibers. So for that fast contract, it's just squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release. That's it. You can do that while you're sitting at a red light. You can do that while you're checking your email. You can do that while you're standing in line in the grocery store. You can do that anytime. These are exercises that no one sees. So that's the beauty of it. You can do Kegel exercises anytime, anywhere. So fast contracts, just squeeze, release. A second type of pelvic floor contraction are the slow holds. That's where you squeeze and hold through at least a full breath. You can hold for 2 breaths. You can work up to holding for 3 or 5 breaths. So, same concept, squeeze, contracting, hold, and release. That's it. So there's not really much attention to control, it's just activate, hold, release. So that slow hold requires a little more strength than the fast contract. So that's why it's good to practice both. And a third exercise for the pelvic floor muscles is the elevator. To do the elevator, you squeeze slowly, drawing upward and inward, imagining, visualizing an elevator in the pelvic floor, rising up, that you're drawing upward with the muscles until you get to the top where the elevator can't rise anymore, and you hold it there for a breath. And then you release the elevator 1 floor at a time back down. Now this requires strength and muscular control. So this is sort of the most advanced and difficult pelvic floor exercise. That doesn't mean you should only do elevators when you work up to doing them, because it is important to exercise all the different types of muscle fibers. But elevators are good to practice for at least a set of 10 once a day once you work up to them. Now you'll start with doing a set of 20 fast contracts and you might feel your muscles fatigue. Then you can work up to more and more to where you can do a full set of 100 fast contracts. That actually doesn't take very long at all. It sounds like a lot, but you're just squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release, so it's very quick. On the slow holds, you can hold for 3 to 5 breaths and try to practice a set of 15 to 20 of those once a day. And then those elevators, you can work up to practicing about 10 of them. So if you can implement all 3 types of those Kegel or pelvic floor exercises, you will be well on your way to maintaining or regaining the muscle tone in the pelvic floor. Another side note, if you're not great at exercising, then think about sexercising. You can actually use sex as a time to practice your pelvic floor contractions. So you can practice the fast contract, you can practice the slow hold, and you can even practice the elevator. It actually helps to have that external stimuli there to help give you feedback on how strong your contraction is. If that's not an option every day, another external stimuli that you can use is just your fingers. You can use 2 clean fingers to insert, especially as you're learning and teaching yourself how to do these pelvic floor exercises. So 2 clean fingers inserted into the vagina, and practice that fast contract, just contract, release, contract, release, contract, release. The slow hold, contract and hold, you can feel yourself actually holding, and then the elevator as well. And on the elevator, you'll actually feel the fingers being drawn inward and upward slightly. So hopefully you'll find this helpful, this crash course in Kegels 101 in how to find and exercise the pelvic floor. Let me know what you think in the comments box down below.